ठीक है ना बिल्कुल. Please tell me when to start. Okay, ma'am. So we are starting. A very good morning and warm welcome to everyone. It is with great pleasure that I, Dr. Charulata, on behalf of the organizing committee of the NISpR SVASTik lecture series, take the opportunity to welcome our distinguished guests and the audience who have joined us live through NISpR SVASTik Facebook page for the first session of the series on traditional foods for better nutrition, environment, and life to commemorate the World Food Day 2021. As we all know that the United Nations has proclaimed 16th October as the World Food Day in order to not only mark the founding of the Food and Agriculture Organization, but also to appreciate the amazing food we eat and tackle world hunger. Every year, the theme revolves around agriculture, food, and investments to increase food production. The theme this year is Our Actions Are Our Future, Better Production, Better Nutrition, a Better Environment, and a Better Life. Further, 2021 also marks the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables, reminding us to eat more of fresh produce and learn about our indigenous and local varieties. I would also like to state here a quote from Sir Winston Churchill, who once has famously said that healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have. While Benthany Frankel, another prominent personality, said that your diet is a bank account, good food choices are good investments. And these two quotes seemingly fit into the present health crisis when consecutively for the second year, most countries around the world are dealing with the widespread effects of COVID-19 pandemic. I would also like to add that India is endowed with a rich legacy of traditional knowledge and practices that touches several spheres of life. Our traditional practices exist in synergy between human needs and nature, often balancing resources and requirements in local contexts. And as far as our food and food habits are concerned, our ancient and traditional knowledge depicts tremendously about the nutritional and medicinal values. So therefore, in this spirit, in order to celebrate the amazing food we eat and also to celebrate and promote our traditional heritage, the TK's division of CSIR NISpR is organizing the Swastik NISpR lecture series, the NISpR Swastik lecture series on traditional foods. In this special lecture session, we have two distinguished guests with us. Professor Vinti Davar, clinical nutritionist and founder director, Rural Organics and Wellness Private Limited, who will be delivering the keynote address. Our another distinguished speaker is Professor Suparna Ghosh Jairat, Professor and Head Community Nutrition, Indian Institute of Public Health, New Delhi, who will be delivering a special address. She will be joining us shortly. We also have with us Professor Ranjana Agarwal, Director NISpR. So now I request Professor Agarwal to deliver the welcome address and introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Charu. Respected Professor Vinti Davar, who is the keynote speaker of today's session, and Professor Suparna Ghosh Jairat, she will be joining us around 12 o'clock. Members of CSIR NISpR, people who are joining us virtually online on Facebook, and the team Swastik and team Traditional Knowledge Division, those who have taken the initiative. I welcome you all to this first lecture of the series initiated by Swastik. Swastik is a very beautiful word, we all know. It has, Kalyankari, Shubh Mangal. Though when we talk of acronyms, this Swastik means scientifically validated societal Indian traditional knowledge. So it's a very good initiative by Swastik team that they have initiated the series at the right note. Traditional food for better nutrition, environment and life on the world's on the special day, World's Food Day, which is celebrated on October 16. But because of, I think, the Dashera vacation and the longer weekend, they have chosen this day. So I congratulate the whole team for taking this initiative. This topic is very relevant not only to India, but across the globe. Because when we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 2 talks about zero hunger. It talks about issues about the food, like how to end hunger, how to achieve food security, how to improve nutrition, and how to have sustainable agriculture. Because all these 4 issues which have been raised in Sustainable Development Goals are interlinked and affect each other. It also affects, the rural transformation, the livelihood in the rural areas, the farmers, agrarians. So when we talk about food, we have to think about the whole food chain from the grain which are produced in the fields and how they are consumed and where do they reach. So these are all interrelated issues. Talking about the global scenario, FAO itself says like there are more than 2 billion people who do not have regular access to sufficient amounts of safe, nutritious food, while 3 billion people cannot afford healthy diets, and obesity continues to increase worldwide. Out of 10, 1 person goes to bed without sufficient food, with hunger. If we talk about Indian scenario, here also we find when we look at the Indian Global Hunger Index, India ranks 101 out of 116. It's a very, very serious situation, alarming situation for a country who is now self-sufficient on food production. When we talk of green revolution, we are very proud of white revolution. So having enough food, enough grains, and if we are having at the global hunger index at 101 position, so it's an alarming situation and it needs lots of introspection. Another issue which we should consider about the gap between the ones having and ones not having, that has also widened up. So at one point we are talking about people who are going without food. Hunger is the problem. At the other end, we are having wastage of food. It may be due to different reasons. I'm not going to debate on that. So wastage of food is also a great concern for us, because generation of greenhouse gas like methane by food waste is also affecting the climate change. So environment is also getting affected. Another thing, the kind of agriculture we have started with the intervention of S&T, it's good that we are having enough grains, but at the same time, we should look at the sustainability. Look at the areas in India which are arid in nature, now growing rice. Earlier, where we were having 2 crops, people are having 3 to 4 crops. We are not worried about the water level. We are not worried about the health of soil. We are not worried about the kind of pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, overuse we are doing. So there are several issues when we talk about sustainable agriculture. So these are the issues which we should, be aware of, should talk of. There should be debate, discussions, and policies should be there. And NISpR, when we say National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research, this is a global think tank lab which deals with science communication and science policy. When we say science communication, we talk about all the stakeholders, from school students to college students to scholarly persons and to general masses, including, our farmers, the society, the tribals, the artisans. We include everything in that. And similarly for science policies, this is the leading lab in the world on STI studies, where we try to connect social sciences with the science, society with the science, including again the society at large, including farmers, MSME, industries, global relations, etc., etc. So when we talk about NISpR, two initiatives I would like to talk about, particularly relevant to traditional knowledge and food. When we say traditional food, Dr. Charu has given two very good quotations where it has been highlighted that the communities, the societies, the nations which stick to their traditional food habits, they are much better to manage their nutrition, their betterment of life, environment. So India in that way is very fortunate that we have a very traditional, rich traditional knowledge of food. If you look at our rituals, our festivals, our art and culture, all are woven around our rich heritage of seasonal produce. Be it Pongal, Bihu, Baisakhi, Deepavali, Dashera, and you name any festival. So every festival has some relevance with the food. And in India, according to our seasons, 6 seasons, we have our food habits, our culinary skills changes from time to time. And which is, if we look deeper, our incredible country has a rich traditional scientific knowledge related to the food, which nowadays the Western world speak, particularly in the time of COVID, people have realized the value of food and the resultant immunity it develops in the human body. So people are talking about food, and traditional foods are gaining lots of importance. They are coming into the forefront. Due to the globalization, somewhere our younger generations are not much, I should say, not worried or not concerned about the knowledge we have, and how should we should retain this knowledge and put it to the society, not in India but to the world also, like what kind of traditional scientific knowledge we have about food and our eating habits. If you look at any Indian thali in any part of the country, you will find it has been designed very scientifically, having all kind of ingredients. In modern terms, if I talk of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, etc., antioxidants, etc. And if I talk in the terms of Ayurveda, all the rasas, sweet, sour, salt, bitter, pungent, astringent, and also about taking care of the season, Vat, Pitta, Kapha. So our food has been very, very scientific. So I think today's lecture will also give us more insights into this, because both the speakers, eminent speakers, are having rich experience in the nutrition and food. In NISpR, we have this. First of all, I would like to talk about SVASTIK. SVASTIK is a national mission which has been initiated very recently at the, I will say, PM office has asked CSIR to initiate this movement. It so happened that in a CSIR society meeting, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji was very much appreciated the effort of CSIR to carry out research on traditional knowledge. And that's the time when he said, like, CSIR should come forward and communicating that traditional knowledge which has been validated scientifically through modern tools or which can be reconstructed in the present times, and the value addition can be done. So these kind of knowledges should be communicated to the society. And this responsibility has been taken up by our laboratory, and Dr. Charulata is heading that. And on social media, we are putting the stories. We are acquiring the traditional knowledge on which people have worked. There are scientific evidences. The two stories which they have communicated till now is, one is of Aranmula mirror. It's a metallic mirror by front polishing. And this is a very traditional art of Kerala. which is still in practice, but losing its sheen. So this knowledge has been transmitted. The another one which they have transmitted this knowledge is Euro 5. This is again a formulation which has been developed by CSIR lab of NBRI Lucknow, where 5 herbs which have been mentioned in our classic text, those classic herbs have been taken up by NBRI, and formulations have been made, and clinical and all the modern approach for a drug, clinical trials and everything have been done by them, and that knowledge has also been communicated, and they are getting very overwhelming response. And now we would like to take this mission forward by involving more and more scientists. So here we will also like to share the traditional food which we have and the modern science, how does it support it. So we would like to share those stories also. So I will request my experts to give those kind of stories, share those kind of stories with us, so that we can propagate it. And we propagate it in different languages, not only Hindi and English, all the regional languages which are possible, we are working on that. Another very important initiative which we did on, particularly on food, as this was the year of International Year of Fruit and Vegetable. On 13th April 2021, which was Chaitra Pratipada, Navvarsh, CSIR NIScPR, that time it was NIScPR, we released a thematic lunisolar calendar, Kal Chakra. This Kal Chakra calendar has the Tithi and Paksha, which generally a calendar Panchang has. It also has Gregorian system, but at the same time, it also has Shaka system and Indian national calendar. But the main highlight of this calendar was that its theme was food as medicine. And in this, we tried to collect the knowledge about all kind of fruits and vegetables which are grown in India, which are consumed by the people. We try to classify them as per the seasons. Their nutrition value, their medicinal values, their Indian names, their taste. I talked about 6 rasas, so in which category do they fall, and the calories, etc., etc. So it was a very good initiative by CSIR NISpR and Vigyan Bharati that they took food as a medicine as a theme to release the calendar. So in the coming times also, we would like to take these kind of initiative on traditional knowledge forward, so we can have, overall a picture of holistic health, good nutrition and well-being of the human being, not only physically, but also at the mental level, at the consciousness level, at the mind level, our thought processes, our emotions, our moods. So the a very simple sentence which we use in every home, जैसा खाए अन्न वैसा रहे मन. तो मुझे लगता है ये जो खाना है, ये सिर्फ हमारे स्वास्थ्य के लिए, शारीरिक स्वास्थ्य के लिए जरूरी नहीं है, लेकिन ये हमारे मन के लिए भी बहुत जरूरी है. और आज के समय में होलिस्टिक हेल्थ की समय निकाला, और आज हमको अवसर मिलेगा कि हम उनके विचार सुन सकें और अपने ज्ञान में वर्धन कर सकें. तो इन्हीं सब शब्दों के साथ मैं फिर से डॉक्टर विनती डावर का एक बार पुनः स्वागत करती हूँ, अभिनंदन करती हूँ कि वो आज हमारे समक्ष हैं. धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful views on swastik and on our traditional food and their scientific validation and values. Now I have the honor and privilege of inviting Professor Vinti Dawar for the keynote address. Professor Vinti Dawar is a renowned clinical nutritionist and founder director, Rural Organics and Wellness Private Limited. Having worked in many hospitals and clinics, Professor Dawar has more than 40 years of experience. She is the consultant dietitian, Ayushman Hospital and Health Services, New Delhi, RV Hospital, Gurgaon, nutrition consultant to various universities, institutes, and schools. She was former professor, chairperson, Department of Home Science, Kurukshetra University. She is an expert in weight gain diet counseling, nutritional education, sports nutrition, medical nutrition therapy, etc., and holds a double MSc and PhD from Kurukshetra University. Professor Davar is a member of the American Society of Nutrition and the Indian Dietetic Association. She has delivered talks in more than 50 international and national webinars, obtained 48 online national international diplomas and certificates, and has published over 70 publications in national and international journals. Professor Davar has been awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award 2019, IARDU Lifetime Achievement Award 2019, Saman Patra for Outstanding Contribution to Nutrition and Diet of Human Beings, Swabhiman Award by Nobel Foundation 2018, and National Nutritionist Award 2016. Now I request Professor Davar to deliver the keynote address on the topic Indian food culture, traditions and health. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charulata. A very sweet, soothing good morning, namaskar to all in this pleasant weather of October. At the outset, I pay my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Ranjana Agarwal, Director CSIR NISpR, for giving me this opportunity to speak in the NISpR SVASTik lecture series on World Food Day 2021. I am truly humbled. I am also thankful to Dr. Charulata for all the correspondence made pertaining to this lecture. It will be my pleasure to listen and share my views with Professor Suparna Ghosh, Professor and Head Community Nutrition IIPH. My best wishes to organizing team, members of CSIR NISpR, and online participants for fruitful deliberations and success of the Swastik lecture series on traditional foods for better nutrition, environment, and life. A very thoughtfully chosen subject. I congratulate the whole team for selecting such a topic. So I am today speaking on Indian food culture, traditions, and health. Already a lot has been told to everyone by Professor Ranjana Agarwal and Dr. Charulata. But we have a very rich heritage. The history of Indian cuisine is as old as our civilization. We all know that Indian dining etiquette is built on traditions. Whatever we eat, whatever any family, any person is eating, there is a tradition in a particular caste, particular region, and we follow those. And behind almost every tradition are centuries of invasions, conquers, religious beliefs, political changes, social customs, but above all, some scientific principles, which at that point of time, they could not prove. But today, those things are being proved. And we all know that food is an important part of Indian culture, which plays a role in everyday life, as well as in festivals. Each festival centers around a food or harvesting. There is a season, and when we harvest, we celebrate. May it be Lodi, may it be Diwali, may it be your Bihu, whatever, or Pongal, we celebrate all. And I hope you are able to see my slides.
Yes, we are.
So there is diversity. Indian cuisine varies from region to region. What South people are eating in South, it's different from what people are eating in North, West, and East. It is different. But basically, if we just try to see whatever is available in their area, that particular food becomes the staple. Rice is staple in South, in East, but in West, we normally find wheat to be the staple. We eat wheat, but more of vegetables, more of fruits are included in North, but less vegetables are included in East, in coastal areas, because they find seafood in plenty. And when they find seafood in plenty, they incorporate that. Coconut is there in their diet, but in northern India, those things are not there. Then the food is balanced from seasonal availability of food. I was working on UNDP project in Ethiopia for 2 years, and there I started growing green leaves in my kitchen garden. And one of the professor and dean came and he said, "Oh my God, you Indians eat so many green leaves. Do you also eat grass?" I said, "We don't eat grass like this, but we include different kinds of grass in our diet as well, like wheat grass, like lemongrass. So it is not that we don't eat, but we know, because our ancestors had told us that when you include such things in your diet, you get plenty of fiber, plenty of vitamins, like vitamin C is there, vitamin A is there. So all those things have been told and we are following. And I am a believer in Ayurveda. And everybody knows these days, Ayur is life and Veda are studies, which have their foundation coming from and listed in our different Vedas. So from there, it has come down to us. And if we just see the food, culture and traditions of India, how these have been shaped. And this is a little history which I have tried to list down. From 2000 BC, the Indus Valley civilization lays the foundation to the Ayurvedic style of cooking. 1000 BC, Aryans, they laid roots of Hinduism, and that shaped the Vedas and caste system developed. And 600 BC, Buddhism and Jainism came. In 400 BC, Greeks came and started changing our food culture. And in AD 1200, Persians and North Indian dynasties, they again were raided by these countries, and the influence of them came in our diet. 1200 to 1500 AD, Portuguese, they started impacting our diet, and then Mughals, and then British. Like tea was incorporated to us by British. Mughals incorporated the biryanis, the nuts, and the food became very rich. So this is the difference, but became part of our diet. If we just look at this map of India, a very, very clear, concise map which tells and which state, which particular area has what in particular to offer and which dishes are very popular. I'll be talking about little bit about the dishes which have been lost, the cuisines which have been lost but are very relevant to date. I'll be talking later about those also. So just have a look and just see that every part of India has its own specialities, which are carried to the globe. I mean, it's now we are global, and wherever you go, any country, you will find Indian restaurants, and Indian restaurants serving South Indian food, North Indian food, East India food, and the West India food. All specialties are served all over the world. Now, the problem is that the modern life has impacted us. There are many wonders of science and industry, but we are fraught with stress. Each one of us. Mobile devices, web have vastly increased the pace of life, but still we feel that we are drowning in the ocean of data, and industrial agriculture has burdened us. Like just now, Professor Ranjana Agarwal said that we are taking 3 to 4 crops and we are not bothered about the water level. So unhealthy processing of the food, the packaging of food, and what I say, when you open a packet of a food, your stomach bulges as much air you bring out from the package. I mean, I am deadly against the packaged foods, and I say that eat healthy, whatever is available in your area, eat that. I'll just experience little experiences I'll share with you. When I visit my patients in the hospital, and normally, definitely I'm going to ask, "Aapne kya khaya?" And the answer comes, "Madam, kiwi." Why kiwi? Why not anything else? Madam, हमें बताया गया है कि kiwi बहुत अच्छा fruit है. I'm sorry. I mean, why can't we select a seasonal fruit which is available at a cheaper price and with higher nutritive value? we are running after apples and we leave aside our guavas, we leave aside our amla. The amla, the gooseberry is Amrit Fal, which we are blessed with, we Indians are blessed with. We find it almost every nook and corner, one tree, and we can plant it at the back of our kitchen gardens if at all we have. And if we do not have, even then we get it outside in the market. And it's so much rich that 100 grams of amla give us 600 milligrams of vitamin C, whereas we only require 50 milligrams of vitamin C every day. So if we just eat one amla, that is going to give us much more organic vitamin C than our saline tablets, which we are running after. And we all know that at the time of COVID, there was in the market no supplies. So why we are running after only those things which we are not even getting? Demand was more, supply was less, but why can't we find? And similarly, I was talking about guava. The guava, 100 grams of guava gives us 300 milligrams of vitamin C, whereas an apple gives you only 120. Look at the difference. But because apple is very expensive and considered to be a social status food, so we are running after apples. We leave aside our humble guava. We leave aside our amlas. So this is what we really need to work on, and we really need to tell people that if this is available in your kitchen garden, if this you can grow in your plants, in your pots, in your on your terrace, or even in your balconies, start growing little things, and you'll be getting the food fresh and without any chemicals. So urban dwellers are also faced with increasing wealth inequality, as Madam said, and there is social isolation. Now we are only connected through social media. We do not go to any house, we do not interact, and everybody has no time because our time is going into our mobiles, into our TVs, into our programs, and of course our work. So there is excessive noise, air, water, and soil pollution, and we are disconnected from nature. We have no time to stand and stare. You must be remembering when I said stand and stare. Thus, while industrialization has led to longer lifespan, there is longevity has increased, but the quality of life has decreased. If we see the lifestyle diseases which are preventable, we invited those lifestyle diseases, and we are in the midst of a global pandemic of obesity, diabetes, cancer, dementia, depression, chronic pulmonary disease caused by modern lifestyle. So, how? The majority of young Indians are moving away from homemade food. Every parent whosoever comes to me complains, बच्चे घर का बना खाना नहीं पसंद करते. They only want food from market, ready-made food, packaged food, from KFC, from Pizza Hut, from Domino's, Burger King. Why? Why? Because additives are added there and they make us addictive. And we prefer eating those foods because spices and so many things which have been added, we do not add those things at home. A very young child of 1 year does not like to eat anything else except pasta. What is the reason? I asked the parents, who introduced pasta to her? On her own, she didn't know that what is pasta. If you did not introduce, how does she know? So these are the things we really need to deliberate upon. We need to discuss and make people aware that we are running towards packaged foods, we are running towards ready-made foods, but we are leaving our own rich cultural heritage back behind. And that is the reason we are suffering. And if we just see, food processing industry is on the rise. Maggi, Everybody remembers when Maggie was taken out of the market. People were going mad. Everybody wanted, I want to have Maggie, I want to have Maggie. So modern lifestyle has induced people to eat more than their bodies need. See, there are two things. One is that we are moving towards fast food. The second is the portion size is increasing and increasing manyfold. And those portion sizes, when we are sitting and eating in large quantities, those are showing in our health, badly on our health. Like we are suffering from diabetes, we are suffering from heart diseases and all those problems. Now, look at this. This is real a funny thing and you will enjoy it, I believe. Fitness on the rise. Oh yes, fitness is on the rise. He says, I'll take 3 burgers, 4 bags of chips, 2 cream sticks and 1 can of pop. Can you make that to go? I have to get back to my workout. What is the use of going to work out if you are eating all this nonsense food? So, if we are running on treadmills, we are doing exercise cycles, we are on steppers, we are on rowers, we are doing all those activities and we feel privileged and telling people that I have joined this particular fitness center, I am going to this gym, but we do not want to mop our houses. We do not want to broom. We do not want to work in our kitchens, but spend on gyms. We have time for gyms. We do not have time to cook food at home because that has become a social status. We talk to our friends. We tell them. When patients come to me and they talk to me that I'm gaining weight, I want to lose weight. And if I tell them, okay, start working in your home, do such household chores and climb stairs instead of doing all what you are doing in your fitness centers. And I'm sorry that I have a very, very serious concern about these gyms and fitness centers. This is my personal view that whosoever, whether a 16-year, 18-year, or 35 or 40-year-old is going to a gym, they want 6 and 8 pack body. That is the abs. We want 6 abs, we want 8 abs, but the trainers are not even literate. They are not even educated. They don't know what is nutrition and what is the body physiology, how what we are recommending is going to be digested and absorbed by the body and thrown out of the body. They really don't know. And they are suggesting them to eat plenty and this big, I mean, at least 10 kgs of protein powder. They recommend them. Okay, 1 kg in a month at the most. Otherwise, sometimes even 3 kgs in a month. Now you tell me that how kidneys can support that much protein and what will happen? And it is in front of us. Kidney failure cases are increasing in young people. They are suffering from health conditions. They are suffering from heart diseases. And sudden heart failures have become very, very common in the age group of 28 to 35. And still, because even then, families tell us that they have been going to fitness centers, but we are not even looking at that what they are being recommended, whether it is healthy or not. That is one side, and the other side is food adulteration. Adulteration by all the additives, by those additives which are not even allowed by the government, like Sudan red dyes, and you and me and everybody would have received messages and would have seen in the newspapers that even our lychee is being painted. Your bhindi, that was lady finger, is dipped in green color and then given to us, and even the beans, all these adulterants we are consuming, and what is the impact? And these dyes make us sick. Our intestines, we are losing there are ulcers, being reported. More and more ulcers are being reported. So what are we doing? So this is the issue. This is what I really want to bring to CSIR NIScPR, that this is important, because you really need to work on these things, and we people should carry these messages to people that please avoid these things. Now, pesticides in food, a silent killer, which is endosulfan, the monocrotophos, and DDT, which has been banned so many years earlier, but we are still using the aluminium phosphide. Each of our cauliflower, each of our mango, each of our papaya. Papaya used to be one fruit which we used to recommend to almost every patient in the hospital without even thinking twice. But now we have totally stopped serving papaya. What is the reason? The reason is that papaya is laden with pesticides, and almost every patient suffers from gastrointestinal trouble, and that is why we had to take it out, and we cannot give, and we cannot take a risk to give to any patient, and the best thing was to take it. So we took it off only because of this. If you bring a papaya from the market, you will find that half of the papaya is overripe and half of the papaya is raw. It's not even ripe. So what is the reason? Because when they spray, when they put pesticides, when they put all those chemicals on the papaya, half of it will give you good result and half of it will go waste, and one cannot digest those papayas. Similarly, the cauliflower, the mushrooms are dipped in bleaching powder. They make a powder, and out of bleaching powder they make a solution, and they just dip cauliflower and mushrooms in it and take it out, dry it, and sell it in the market. So what are we eating? And neurological problems are there. Fetus are being damaged because of these. The reproductive disorders are coming forward. Allergic reactions are there. Behavioral disorders are there. Little bit of global data of non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases kill 41 million people each year, and which is equivalent to 71% of all deaths globally. Each year, more than 15 million people die from NCD between the ages of 30 and 69 years. 85% of these premature deaths occur in low and middle income countries. 77% of all NCD deaths are in low and middle income countries. Cardiovascular disease accounts for most NCD deaths, or 17.9 million people annually, followed by 9.3 million suffering from cancers, 4.1 million respiratory diseases, and 1.5 million diabetes. These four groups account for 80% of all premature NCD deaths. Tobacco use, physical inactivity, harmful use of alcohol, unhealthy diets all increase the risk of dying from NCD. These all of you are aware. Even little bit of Indian data also for us to just think upon. Over 61% of all deaths in India attributed to lifestyle or non-communicable diseases. This is what CSC says in December 2020. More than 1.73 million new cancer cases recorded each year. Air pollution, tobacco, alcohol, and diet change are primary triggers. We all people living in Delhi, we very well know that our children are suffering from lungs problems, and COPD is becoming very prevalent. It is a disease common to children, to adults. Nebulization of very young children has to be taken in the hospitals. I mean, I'm very sorry when I see very young children undergoing nebulization. Every 12th Indian is a diabetic. India ranks second in the list of countries after China with highest diabetes patients. And the research is indicating that very soon we are going to be number one We are going to be the capital of diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. So and economic burden will be there, health burden will be there, and people will be suffering. So we really need to deliberate upon. Every third child in Delhi has impaired lungs. India had 35 million chronic asthma patients in 2016, and now the number was not available to me, but we can imagine that how much it would have increased. Air pollution causes 30% of all premature deaths in country. Linkages with mental disease reveal more than 2.7 million people in India die of heart disease every year, and 52% of them below the age of 70. Now I am coming to our culture, to our traditions. It says, Amantram aksharam nasti nasti mulam na avashadham ayogya purusho nasti yojak tatra durlabha. There is no letter that is not a mantra. There is not a root that is not a food or medicine. There is not a man who is not useful. It is the coordinator of these elements who is a rare breed as limited by his her wisdom. This is what Materia Medica of Ayurveda says. For more than 6,000 years, Ayurveda has been practiced to promote wellness in India, but we are not using it. What we really need to do is to use that knowledge, make it our everyday food, make it our Vedas are telling us that what to eat, what not to eat, what time to eat, and what season to eat. So why not we start following those things? Vegetarianism in India is very, very popular. All over the world, if we see, just when I was making this presentation, I came across one WhatsApp message which said that India is the only country in the world on our celebrations, particular festivals. India is the one who does not slaughter animals or birds all over the world. Now, if you really look at that, it's very true. See, on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, the birds are slaughtered. So many Christmas trees are fallen, I mean, large number. It had given the data, but I have not included it here, I'm sorry. In Muslims, when they celebrate Eid, so many animals are slaughtered all over the world. But we, the Indians, we celebrate our festival totally vegetarian. Whichever festival is there, particularly that day, that week, that 10 days or whatever, we become vegetarian. So that is really very, very important, very important thing. 8 in 10 Indians limit meat in their diets. And if we just look at that in each family, we also observe that certain families, they observe that on Tuesdays will not eat any non-veg. And there are others who will not eat on Thursday. Then there are others who will not eat on Saturdays. So this is the way that our ancestors told us. One thing was to control our mind, our heart, our feelings. And the second is to protect animals. If we just go around any Gurdwara, any temple, we normally find a sarovar. And fishing is not allowed. Why? Because those fish are preserved. I mean, you're not allowed to catch any fish and to slaughter. So this is what our culture has given us. We should promote those things. As far as nutrition, because I am a nutritionist, so I'll definitely have to bring all of you and myself to nutrition. Our culture places special emphasis on ahar and an. Ahar means diet and an is food. That is the means of our good life, health and wellness. Now, what is wellness? Wellness does not mean only physical. This is what Professor Ranjana Agarwal also said. We really need to see mental strength, vigor, nurtures the health of the tissues, and then results in longevity. When we teach our students of MSc, and BSc and whatever. So we say that food has different functions to perform. There are physiological functions, there are psychological functions, there are social functions. The psychological functions, like the satisfaction which we get out of food. We reflect our feelings through food. If we are happy, there is a quote saying that somebody visited, a monk visited somebody's house, and he served him a cup of tea full to the brim. He said, oh, so this is the gratitude being shown to me. How? That full to the brim. I love you so much. I respect you so much. This was a reflection. This is psychological. Similarly, we also have our feelings and we show through our feelings. I don't want to eat food today because I'm not feeling, my mood is off. And certain things like this. And similarly, we have our social. अच्छा, तुम्हारे नंबर बड़े अच्छे आए हैं, पार्टी हो जाए. What is this? Social celebration. We invite our friends for dinners, we share food. Everything is reflected in food. Ayurveda and lifestyle medicine. As a science of life in the world's oldest medical system, Ayurveda has a holistic approach to health and disease that focuses on preserving and promoting good health and preventing disease through healthy lifestyle practices. नीचे अगर आप pictures देख रहे हो, sorry, देखिए, each picture in itself speaks. These are the foods which we include in our diets. The fruits and vegetables, this is the year of fruits and vegetables. I'll just quickly go through all the slides and tell you in the next slides, coming slides. And the spices, the herbs which we use, and all over the world we are known to use different spices and herbs in the best combination possible. The different grains, millets, which are very, very particular to India. And then milk and milk products. Our probiotics and the milk which we have in our homes. Now, the main doshas which we have, the vata, pitta, kapha. In simple terms, we say vat, pit and kapha. So vat comprises of air and ether, and vat are people who have vat are said to have dry skin and experience stiffness, gas, constipation and coldness. So they are recommended warm, wet foods like soups, oils and herbal teas. Look, I mean, immediately they are told to have oils. Why? Because this is what I said, they have dry skin. Pith, fire and water. They're very sharp people. They're very powerful. They're leaders and visionaries when it comes to people that who have the tendency of their body to be pitta. And what they are recommended, because they suffer from inflammation, acid reflux and overheating. So what they are recommended, cool foods, juices, salads, bananas, raw seeds, cooling herbs, lemon tea, mint, and to avoid alcohol, caffeine. Similarly, kapha, which is associated with oiliness. उनके अंदर बहुत oil produce होता है उनकी skin पे. They have density, they have languidness and stability. They're very kind of people, very caring, but they may suffer from weight gain, high cholesterol and congestive disorders. Then what do we recommend? We recommend them bitter, light and dry food to balance kapha. Salads, beans, citrus, whole grains. Avoid salt, avoid overeating and sugar. गुण क्या होते हैं? गुण होते हैं, हम उसको 3 कैटेगरीज में बांटते हैं, सात्विक, राजसी एंड तामसिक. सबने सुना हुआ है. सात्विक is a quality of mind जिसमें clarity है, harmony and balance. Fresh fruits and vegetables, salads, fruit juices, fresh cereals, herb teas, fresh cow milk, dry fruits, nuts, honey, ये सब सात्विक foods. Rajasic is a quality of mind which induces energy and action. So they eat rice, they eat sour cream, they eat paneer, they eat even meat products. Tamasic people include most of the meats in their diets. That evoke darkness, inertia, resistance, So they commonly eat, these are the diets which people eat. Rajsik bhojan. I mean, you can see that there is plenty of food laid on the plate, thali, and all types of food is there. Sattvic, and with very rich, very high food. Sattvic, which is very simple, with millets, with your curd or chaach, fruits, vegetables, whereas tamasic is all full of meat and meat products and um, the refined flours. What is food culture? Food culture refers to the practices, attitudes, and belief, as well as the networks and institutions surrounding the production, distribution, and consumption of food. In India, as we already said, Dr. Ranjana said, and I have been mentioning, shaped by climate, land, and access to our natural sources, whatever is available. What is the importance of food and culture for global well-being? ये पिक्चर्स आपको सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी दिखेंगी. हमारे जितने भी फूड कल्चर हैं, नो मैटर वेयर इन द वर्ल्ड, ऑल एनकम्पास अ फ्यू कंपोनेंट्स. क्या? Sharing food with community and family as bhoj, feast, celebrations. Value the needs of the land over the convenience-driven desires of people. Use food to celebrate religious and community events as langar, Ashtami Puja, Iftar, Diwali, Eid ul-Fitr, Christmas. ये सब वही pictures I collected from here and there, and I just made a collage out of these. Focus on local and seasonal ingredients and use them to create unique and distinguishable flavors. What I recommend to my clients, to my patients, अच्छा आपका बच्चा घर का खाना नहीं पसंद करता, you just put spinach in blender, make a dough with that spinach and make puri, make prantha, make pasta with that. So at least vegetable he will be able to eat. Similarly, gajar daliye, add carrots, make a puree, use it. Similarly, pumpkin. I mean, these things children normally do not eat. So these are the things which I usually recommend, that modify the diets according to what they feel good after looking at and they are tempted to eat. Use herbs, plenty of herbs we have. We have our cilantro, that is coriander leaves. We have almost everything available in Delhi and in India now, almost everywhere. So you can grow things in your own plants. You can add tulsi. You can add, I'm coming to tulsi in further slides. So food is not something to be manipulated. It is meant to be shared and celebrated. How food culture impacts health. But what does food culture have to do with one's health? Without a strong food culture, food becomes something that we manipulate for personal gain. So it stops being something that we respect. What we really need to do is respect the food and become a person who can control how much we need to eat. Let us bring our culture back in our homes. सब मिलजुल कर अपने कल्चर को अपने घरों में लाते हैं. Everybody is capable of creating a strong food culture for self and family. You don't need to grow up in an environment with a strong food heritage, but think about the real foods that make you happy. The ones your mother, your grandmother may have made you. Think about those and start making in your own homes, teaching your own children further so that those things are carried forward. Start to get to know what foods grow in your own local environment. How do the seasons and growing periods change? What foods and flavors do you find yourself craving during different parts of the year? Lean into those questions and allow your mind and your body to bring enjoyment and curiosity back into your food. Evaluate the suitability of foods. These are the timings which we were told by our ancestor and we must follow, and these are the timings we also prescribe. Your breakfast should be eaten within 30 minutes of waking up. Ideal time to have breakfast is 7 a.m. but not later than 8. Make sure you have protein in your breakfast. Lunch, the ideal time is 12 noon to 1 p.m. Try and keep a gap of 4 hours. Why 4 hours? Because 4 hours our body takes to digest one meal. The ideal time to have dinner is before 7 p.m. And again, keep a gap of 3 to 4 years between your dinner and bedtime. Don't just eat your dinner and go to bed immediately, because with that you will have the problems of GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disorders, and other associated problems of flatulence. So just have your dinner at 7 and then go to bed at 10. Sleep good 8 hours. Okay. Now, the fermented foods are, now I'm coming quickly to the foods which are very, very useful to us. Fermented foods are rich in probiotic bacteria and are very good for our health of our gut microbiome and digestive system, and these enhance the immune system. From olden times, there are so many dishes you can even make out what all I have depicted, and I'll be talking about certain other things. Fermented foods such as dahi, gundruk, sinki, inzijang, iromba, fermented rye, kanjika, handvo, all from India. And these are products such as kuz, dahi, kanjika. Few I have listed underneath. Gundruk is from Sikkim. It's a leafy green vegetable which is first harvested, then it is left to ferment, then put into different, it's dried and kept and used in different dishes. Curd, we all know in each family, curd is made at home and fermented. Kanji, the carrots are put in water with mustard seeds and salt and kept to ferment, and after that it's a very, very delicious drink which really helps you soothe out. And then there are kimchi. Kimchi is wild culture vegetables are fermented and again stored. And then handvo, it's from Gujarat. They ferment pulse and legume paste and then they steam it and then they temper it with the asafoetida. Millets, which have been part of prehistoric diet in India. Chinese, Neolithic, Korean, all societies use millets. Let me quickly come to which millets and the nutritional values of each millet. The minor millet, finger millet, foxtail. But what is important to know? Which millet to consume when? The ragi is a protein-rich millet which you can consume throughout the year. But the bajra can be eaten during summer, and your finger millets can be eaten, that is the sorghum and pearl millet you can eat in winters. इनकी रोटी बनती है, खिचड़ी बनती है, बाजरा खिचड़ी. Ragi or finger millet is originally native to Ethiopian but is grown. सबने अपने अपने घरों के आसपास, if you have certain land or your kitchen garden, you would have seen amaranthus growing. Amaranthus is very, very rich. It is even eaten during fasting. It is the one thing which is highest source of iron. And the red amaranthus is very, very rich in iron. So we can include those. And this ragi contains methionine and is cooked into cakes, rotis, dosas, puddings, and porridges, a very, very common in southern dishes. Dosas are made out of it. Cane sugar or jaggery. We were made to shift from jaggery to sugar. But now again, we are shifting from sugar to jaggery. If you would have seen that chayos and all those coffee shops, they have started writing that we make jaggery coffee, we make jaggery tea. Because now people have known that jaggery is much better than sugar. So that is the reason, because jaggery gives you, along with the carbohydrates, it also gives you iron, it also gives you certain amount of calcium. So people have started using jaggery once again. So we can also make it a part of our life. The benefits of coconut, the wonder net, it is known as the wonder net. It is rich in short and medium chain fatty acids. Lauric acid, the major component of coconut, has been recognized for its unique properties in foods. The medium chain fatty acids are known to be helpful in controlling your cardiovascular diseases. Then the herbs. Out of herbs, which we know, cumin, every family uses, and turmeric, every Indian family is using. Tulsi, every Indian family is using. The holy basil and turmeric, they have really gained popularity all over the world. It is the medicinal plant, and the best thing is that even if you plant one tulsi in your home, it gives you oxygen. So during COVID, people started bringing tulsi in their homes and watering the plants, but it should be made a habit. And if we look at our ancestors, our families back, our mothers used to worship tulsi. There was always a plant at the entrance in the homes, and they used to worship, and tulsi was made into tea, into the leaves are gathered and then made into a paste. And if somebody has a cold, cough, or stomach ache, they are given those small balls of tulsi made with black pepper. So turmeric, it has been considered great medicine for coughs, colds, and antiseptic, antibiotic, antipyretic, anti-carcinogenic, so many things. But what I have to share with all, and you all must be knowing, in December 1993, the University of Mississippi Medical Center had a patent issued to them by United States Patent and Drugs Trade Office on the use of turmeric for healing. The patent was contested by CSIR, and that is why I said kudos to CSIR, and that patent was cancelled. So that is my tribute to CSIR for such a wonderful job done, and we hope that in future also we'll be able to patent all those things which are from India, which our culture has told us, and we can propagate those things to the world. Use of clay pots has been very common, and clay, when we cook in clay, we serve in clay, we keep our food in clay. One thing is that जिसे हम उसकी प्रकृति कहेंगे, it becomes cool. Like curd, if made in earthen pot, becomes better. Why? Because the clay pots add many important nutrients like calcium, phosphorus, iron, magnesium, and sulfur to food. Iron utensils. Now we recommend to people who are anemic that you soak your black chana in iron ki kadai overnight, cook it in iron wok, kadai, whatever you call it, but do not add anything sour so that it doesn't react, but you get better iron out of it. So once again, we have started recognizing the importance of iron and copper utensils in our food. Now I am quickly coming to the traditional dishes which are just becoming extinct from our diet. Khamiri roti. Once again, fermented food from Kashmir. So very easily digestible. And there is pani ki roti from Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. The only thing is that water is applied on both sides of roti and made, and it's made on griddle only, but the roti is very soft and very easily digestible. Sannata. Now look at the word sannata. Sannata means silence. And what happens? Why it says silence? Because when it goes in our stomach, there is silence. The stomach acids are not producing too much, because this is something which will give you a soothing effect, and that's why we call it sannata. This is going away from us, but we should bring it back to our kitchens. What we do is that we have curd and we just make it little thin, and we make a tempering of caraway seeds, mint asafoetida, rock salt, black salt, and we make it a dish. And then daal pe pohe. Now what is daal pe pohe? Poha, everybody knows that the flattened rice cooked with onions and spices. But this used to be Maharashtra's special snack. which is once again going out because people don't have time to make datte pohe, and we can incorporate those as snacks to children. Gond ke laddu, the gum arabica, it is known to boost stamina and health and lubricate the joints, were given to ladies who deliver children during that period, lactating period. But somehow now, because we recommend that don't eat ghee, so it is not good. We should recommend that there should be mufa, pufa, as well as saturated fatty acids in the diet. But the composition has to be seen. Tilgul, that is the sesame seeds. And in winter, every house used to make tilgul, that is sesame with jaggery, a very good source of energy as well as calcium, zinc. So we can bring these back, and a type of polyphenol that shows to improve lipid profiles and normalize the cholesterol levels. This I have taken from Haryana because I have written a book on anthropology and food culture of Haryana. So from that I have taken these. Hare chane bathu ki sabji, which is very, very common in villages in Haryana, and kachri ki chutney and kachri ki lassi. These are very, very common. So kachri is one fruit, very, very small. I have shown the picture also. Very small fruit, which is grown wild. One can bring those from fields and can make a chutney, or can grind it, ferment it even, and put it in your charge. It gives a very, very tangy taste and a very soothing effect, and a good source of vitamin C, iron, calcium, zinc, and other essential micronutrients. And it contains 15 to 18% proteins as well. So hare chane ki sabji, a good source of vitamin C, calcium, zinc, and micronutrients as proteins and carbohydrates. Lapsi, when suddenly a guest comes in Haryana to a family, you are supposed to serve a sweet. So what they used to make out of whatever millet or cereal, atta is available, the flour, they used to quickly make it in a karai and add jaggery, and then afterwards ghee on it. And that is served as a delicacy, even during tea time, even during after the meals. I mean, this used to be really something, and particularly favorite in winters because it gives lot of energy. Goje khichdi, this is something very unique to Haryana. I have not found this anywhere else. How do they make it? They make bajra khichdi by adding cereals and legumes into it. 3-4 legumes are added, and some rice are also added, and then it is cooked for a long time. And after that, what they do is they add fresh milk. I mean, the milk which you have just milked from a cow is added to this, as well as charch is added to this khichdi. And they normally eat it during breakfast. This is a breakfast dish. And what they believe and what they say, that bajra or this pearl millet khichdi is very, very soothing, but keeps you very, very vital and energetic throughout the day, and you don't sleep. This is what I came to know from the villagers, which I spoke to about this khichdi. They said that we don't sleep after eating this khichdi, and we don't feel need to go home and eat or drink something, and we don't even take hookah after eating this khichdi. So when they are told to avoid hookah, they start eating goji khichdi in the morning. Similarly, simple bajra khichdi is also cooked and is very, very famous all over Haryana and other places. And khas sharbat and summer cooling drink, and dal fara. This is a dish from mustard and curry leaves. Gobi dantal from Punjab. Kapoor kan again from UP. Rasavar, a dish of rice cooked in cane sugar juice. Minja. Okay, and I'll quickly come to sitting on floor and eating. This is very, very important thing, that when we sit in cross-leg position, and this is a sort of yoga. The food is digested very, very easily. This is a yogic position, and a person is comfortable eating, but later on the food is digested. And always sit and drink water. Why? Because the body fluids disrupt. If you stand and drink, it disrupts the balance. Eat with hands. This is again a tradition in India. But what does it imply? This helps the stomach in getting ready to prepare itself for the food, thus improving digestion. What is the implication of eating on a banana leaf? It absorbs the polyphenols of the banana leaf. Adopt, inculcate quickly, because I have to conclude. So, 5 steps. Get active for 1 hour or more, drink plenty of water, eat balanced diet, eat fewer snacks, but more fruits and vegetables. And now we say that 5, rule of 5. What is rule of 5? 3 vegetables and 2 fruits every day. Rule of 5. Choose water as a drink. Get active for 1 hour or more, minimum 30 minutes walk. Eat nuts and seeds, then the package, your chips and crisps and all those snacks. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Eat more healthy foods. Make friends, socialize, keep fit, have fun. Active life, active minds are important. Good health guide, get enough rest and sleep, have good personal hygiene, be happy, always look on the bright side of life, take regular exercise, try to avoid smoking, drug abuse, and excessive consumption of alcohol, eat a balanced diet. Thank you so very much for listening to me. I'm so grateful to all of you. Stay healthy, eat healthy, and good wishes for coming lectures which you will be attending in this lecture series. And more concentration on fruits and vegetables in growing and eating those fruits and vegetables. Thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful thoughts on modern lifestyle and health versus our traditional ways of living, and also like how to connect with our food culture. And this, I'm sure, will help our young generation to get connected with our roots and our traditional heritage and our traditional foods for better nutrition and all holistic health. Now I have the honor and privilege to invite Professor Suparna Ghosh-Gerard, Professor Head, Community Nutrition, Indian Institute of Public Health, Delhi, for her special address. Dr. Ghosh-Gerard is a qualified accredited practicing dietitian and accredited nutritionist in Australia and has more than 4 years of experience as a clinical, academic and research nutritionist. Currently, she is working at IIPH Delhi, a Public Health Foundation of India, as a faculty and is an adjunct faculty at ACSIR also. She is an intermediate fellow with the Wellcome Trust Deputy India Alliance and holds a master's and PhD in food and nutrition from Delhi University. She has worked as a consultant in Planning Commission of India. She has served as the national coordinator for World Bank assisted capacity building project on food and drug safety under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. She was a faculty with Lady Irving College, Delhi University, India, in the Department of Food and Nutrition, and has worked as a research dietitian in a clinical trial on phenylketone urea at the Children's Hospital, Westmed, Australia, and a research assistant at the Sick Kids Hospital, Toronto, Canada. At IPH Delhi, she's involved in teaching public health nutrition, conducting trainings and short-term workshops, and conducting research in core area of maternal and child health nutrition. Her research focuses on assessing nutritional status and dietary practices of women and children in the vulnerable communities like urban slum dwellers and tribal groups. She has special interest in dietary diversity and nutritive value of indigenous foods in addressing food security and nutritional status of vulnerable tribal communities of India. She is also recipient of numerous awards and honors and has published several national international papers. I now request Professor Suparna Ghosh-Gerard to deliver her special address on indigenous food systems to address food insecurity and malnutrition in tribal communities. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Charulata. And I would first quickly share my screen and see if it's working properly, and then I'll start my talk. Just let me know, Charulata, if you're able to see my presentation.
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
No, ma'am. Your
No.
presentation.
Presentation is not visible. Is the presentation visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Please make it short.
Yeah, it is in the presentation mode now?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So firstly, good afternoon to all of you. And firstly, I would like to thank colleagues at the Traditional Knowledge Studies Division, CSIR, NIScPR NISpR, for inviting me to this lecture series on traditional foods for better nutrition, environment, and life to commemorate the World Food Day 2021. And it was very exciting and very enlightening to listen to my previous speaker, who has spoken about such nutritious traditional recipes that are available from various regions of our country. And I personally am a great believer of this ideology and strongly feel that the traditional food systems have a strong sustainability component also. And I will take you all one step back before the food is being prepared as a recipe, but when the food is being produced, is procured and brought at the household level. So I understand that a traditional food system has a strong sustainability component, yet they are not getting enough attention in the current situation. We as nutrition research fraternity have a very crucial role to play in developing evidence-supported, sound scientific information regarding the role of the traditional food systems, which includes production, consumption, utilization of foods that constitute these traditional food systems in addressing malnutrition by diversifying our food baskets sustainably. And we also need to create awareness and inquisitiveness about their importance amongst not only the scientific community, but also the general population. So in today's session, let us explore the role of indigenous food systems to address food insecurity and malnutrition in tribal communities of India. And as I already mentioned, I am taking you one step back where I will be talking about the production of these traditional foods, indigenous foods, and how they can actually address malnutrition in different communities. And here I'm going to take the case study of tribal communities. I'll stop for a second. So is my slide changing?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so the outline of my presentation. So what am I going to cover? I'm firstly going to talk about an overview of what food systems comprise of, the drivers of food system, then challenges with the transitioning food system. And Dr. Vinta has really set the stage quite well in explaining how we are facing the dual or the triple burden of malnutrition in the present days, and why and how transitioning food system can actually contribute to that a lot. Then I will be talking about the relevance of sustainable food systems for planetary health. And then I will be concluding my session with an understanding of the characteristics of indigenous food systems and taking up examples from my own experience of working with the indigenous food systems of India. So, what is food system? The aggregation of food-related activities and the environments, political, And by environment, I mean to say political, socio-economic, and natural food environment within which these activities actually occur. So it includes, and you can see the blue bubbles, it includes food production, transport, consumption, and distribution. Distribution and food preparation and consumption as major part of the subsystem of these food system framework. Another feature of the food system is that food systems are ubiquitous. That is, every human being on earth is a part of some type of food system or the other. In addition, most descriptions of food systems identify these linkages to technologies, for example, crop breeding, farming practices, food processing, the natural environments in the production region. That is, where are we staying? What are we producing? The geography, the nature of the soil where we are producing the food. And most importantly, perhaps, the social factor or the environment, such as the food culture, which my previous speaker has nicely talked about, and the government food policy. By government food policy, here I mean, what are we promoting? Are we promoting monotonous diet by any chance, by just looking at food security and not nutrition security? Why are we not being successful in including enough number of millets in the food supply chain, or in other words, the fair price shops or the public distribution system? Now, we have directives in place where we need to promote millets as part of our public distribution system. But perhaps we need a lot of support in terms of producing enough millets in the country so that they can become an integral part of the public distribution system, and thereby we diversify our food basket also through innovations in the food policy. So now this particular framework that I'm showing you on your screen is the food systems framework, and it identifies categories of external drivers of food system. What are these external drivers? These could be climate change, globalization and trade, income growth, urbanization, population growth and migration, politics and leadership, and socio-cultural context. These are all external drivers which have an effect on the three core constituents of elements or elements of food systems. That is the food supply chains, then the food environment, the individual factors. That is, what is my purchasing power? What is my aspiration? Like, why are people running after the foods which are nicely packaged, are loaded with salts, fats, and sugars, which my previous speaker was talking about? Because some of those foods have become aspirational for them. People are not valuing their traditional diets, and that is also an important factor which makes our food environment value certain products which are perhaps not of true value and in fact are expensive to our health. Okay, so then moving on to the next component, which is the consumer behavior, and all these put together dictates what we are eating, and what we are eating is translating into the nutritional and health outcomes and impact of other social determinants of health like social, economic, and environmental factors. All these put together translates into health and well-being of the population. So, what is a sustainable food system? The sustainable food systems are derived from sustainable cultures and ecosystems and are accessible, affordable, safe, and healthy, while simultaneously promoting environmental stability. It aims at achieving food and nutrition security while limiting the negative environmental impact and improving socioeconomic welfare of all. And here, by all, I mean to say, including the poor and the marginalized. So we have to bring the vulnerable communities in forefront and see that a food system is able to sustain the need of not only who can afford to have everything and in fact is actually harming the food system, but also those who can actually need food at prices which are low yet are healthy and sustainable for the environment. However, we also see challenges of making healthy eating and sustainability of food systems. What are these challenges? And again, I would like to strongly agree with my previous speaker I would like to strongly agree with my previous speaker regarding regarding what is it that we are consuming these days. A healthy diet while balancing planetary resources, we all know that it is becoming untenable these days. In the 200,000 years of human existence, we are no more in synchronization with the human planet and nature. Global food production based on people's eating habits is perhaps the biggest way we humans are pressuring the earth, threatening the local ecosystems and the stability of the earth system. The human cost of our faulty food systems is that almost 1 billion people are hungry and almost 2 billion people are eating too much of wrong foods. And I'm sure you're able to understand what I'm trying to point out here. All these contributes to the double or the triple. Hello? Yeah. So all these contribute to the triple or the dual burden of malnutrition, and it leads to premature death and morbidity. So on one hand, we have undernutrition and communicable diseases, and on the other hand, rise in incidence of diet-related obesity, diet-related non-communicable diseases, including diseases like coronary artery disease, obesity, stroke, and so on and so forth. So how can we transform our food systems to make it sustainable and contribute towards better nutrition and health for all? That is the big question. We have a choice. We can continue to grow our food systems in a linear, exploitative, and extractive way, or we can move to a system that promotes biodiversity, regeneration, nutritious foods, equity, and healthy people. We believe that the decision is quite clear, and we must choose to work with the planet, not against it, for the benefit of the many by following the following principles. Number one, harness the regenerative power of our earth. That is, we need to adopt regenerative agriculture. What we are often talking about, organic farming, or utilizing the natural resources, or in other words, create a stronger local or a circular food system. And what is a circular food system? It is a system where arable land is used for food production, biomass unsuitable for human consumption is recycled as animal feed, byproducts are used to promote soil fertility, etc., thus creating a complementary and a sustainable system. We need to give farmers a voice and support their planet positive choices, whereby we respect the local wisdom and voices of the indigenous people. We have agricultural extension centers at the district level, but we need to work in partnership with the local growers. They have been working in that soil for years together. They have some traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, wisdom, which needs to be mainstreamed into all the development activities in order to benefit, or in order to give us some planet positive choices which are environmentally healthy. Also, we need to move from low cost to true cost. That is, paradoxically, cheap foods are often expensive for people and the planet in terms of health. So you might get a fat which is harmful to us, a cheap, fat loaded, high energy food. But that may be able to take care of the hunger, but in the long run could be detrimental to our health and may be detrimental to the planetary health also. So we need to look at the true cost versus the low cost. And the last point is foster radical collaboration. And this is only possible through collaboration between the farmers, the consumers, the funders, the governments, the businesses, and the local traditional ecological knowledge bearers. So elders of the society, those who have the traditional knowledge, the traditional ecological knowledge, we need to bring that to the forefront in order to make our food systems much more sustainable. Now, so with this background, we started exploring our indigenous food systems of India, of our tribal communities in India, who are the earliest inhabitants of our lands and reside in some of the most ecologically intact and biodiverse areas of the country. Some of my initial works in the area of public health nutrition made me work with the tribals of different states of India, where we looked at various nutrition programs targeted towards their well-being. In doing so, and while interacting with them, I realized that these tribal indigenous people of our country have a treasure trove of traditional wisdom and traditional ecological knowledge about their food systems, which are perhaps in disuse. The landforms, vegetations, climatic zones, rivers, watersheds have actually worked together for thousands of years to shape and form the indigenous land and their food systems. So, these diets are diverse in nature. We understand that and are integrated into the socio-cultural and the spiritual activities of the indigenous people who are the custodians of this knowledge. Therefore, the indigenous foods have the potential to mitigate micronutrient deficiencies and also address the dual or the triple burden of malnutrition while looking at addressing the risks of chronic diseases, because several of these foods are rich in bioactive components, polyphenols, and other nutrients as well as non-nutrients, which have a key role to play in addressing the risk factors of non-communicable diseases also. So these foods are also better adapted to local soil conditions, are climate resilient, and have low carbon footprints, as a result of which are also environment friendly. So we started a study in order to address a research question. And we already knew that the research or literature suggests that despite a rich heritage of biodiverse food resources in the tribal regions of the country, tribal people are malnourished. So a paradox exists where the knowledge of traditional and nutritionally rich food systems are not translated into practice. So there will be surely intervening factors, and these factors could be socioeconomic factors, climatic factors, environmental factors, and other factors that may prevent the smooth transition of knowledge and availability of a rich biodiverse food environment into actual consumption and the resulting nutritional well-being of the community. So if you see the red arrow, this should happen, but perhaps this is not happening. And we need to find out what are those factors which are not letting this translate into better nutritional well-being. So we conceptualize the indigenous food study where we listed some research questions which we wanted to address. Number one was that, are indigenous food systems sustainable? Can the indigenous food systems be a sustainable solution to address malnutrition? Is there a way of systematic documentation of this food system? And this is very crucial. We often talk about traditional ecological knowledge. We often talk about that they are treasures of wisdom. But is this wisdom across generations, is it going or are we losing it? Are we losing that wisdom? Has it been systematically documented? So perhaps the scientific community now working on traditional knowledge need to find out a way or a prototype or a protocol to systematically document these food systems and the components therein. Can we associate indigenous foods intake to nutritional status? What are the factors that affect the indigenous food consumption? And the last important research question, which we are still trying to address, is can we develop feasible recommendations for promoting indigenous food systems with sound scientific evidence? So we initiated the study almost a decade back we received some funding from the Wellcome Trust, and we started working on a simple research question to understand whether we can actually go interact with these traditional communities and co-produce this traditional knowledge for their own benefit. So that was the exploratory work we wanted to do, just to go and interact with these communities, identify people from within the community to recreate or to revitalize what has already been there. But through a systematic approach. So the study design initially, and then later on, I started working on my fellowship where we started systematically documenting these traditional ecological knowledge about the food systems of these communities, and also associating indigenous food with the nutritional status of these communities. And the final objective is to develop affordable diets based on evidence-based recommendations, based on something which is feasible. People who we may not just rely on anecdotal things. Someone said something and it is nutritious. Why is the person saying that it is nutritious? We need to look at the nutrient composition of those foods. We need to learn how they are removing the toxins from these foods, and after those treatment, are the toxins actually getting removed from those foods? Why are people not going and collecting these foods despite having knowledge about these foods? What are the factors or barriers which are hindering in actual consumption of traditional foods? So adopting a scientific, systematic approach, we wanted to explore these food environments. So the study design was exploratory. We did cross-sectional studies, but also had longitudinal components in order to explore the seasonal intake of various kinds of foods. The study locale was in Jharkhand, where we explored or we worked with 4 tribal communities, that is Saurya Paharias, which is a particularly vulnerable tribal group, the Santals, the Ho and Munda, and we also worked with the Orao tribal communities during the first phase of my study, and we worked in the districts of Godda, Khuti and West Singhbum. We used a mixed methods, and we have researchers here who will understand what I'm talking about, that we not only relied on the quantitative surveys, but we also triangulated our quantitative surveys with qualitative discussions, village transects, and other informal inquiries that were conducted, and other qualitative inquiries that were conducted with this population. We also did nutrient analysis. So we just did not go by what the community said. They said this is nutritious, this takes care of, it is good for our eyes, we know, and we don't feel hungry after consuming this. So we needed to know what is the nutrient composition of those specific foods. And we came across several mushrooms, several green leafy vegetables, and we had to do a proper taxonomic classification because several of these green leafy vegetables are known by other names in other parts of India. So a taxonomic classification was required. Post that, we looked at the Indian food composition tables based on their scientific names. If those values, if those foods did not have their nutritive value documented in literature anywhere, we went ahead and did nutrient analysis of those foods in NABL certified labs. We also, as I said, we did surveys, and we did household and dietary surveys. We did anthropometric assessments and biochemical assessments, looked at some of the biomarkers, as several of these populations are known to have high levels of anemia, high levels of vitamin A deficiency. And that is the reason we picked up specific biomarkers and we utilized simple methods so that we could take those tests to the doorsteps of these tribal communities. You must understand that we did not have sophisticated laboratories, so we looked for innovative methods. We did multiplex assays using just a drop of, the capillary blood samples, and did these assessments on a few ml of blood that was collected from the field. So here are some findings that I would like to share with you. So what we found, and that was not to our surprise, that these communities access several sources of food from several. So their food environment actually comprised of several sources. So that not only comprised of their own fields from where they were consuming a lot of grains that they were producing for themselves. They also had kitchen gardens. They also were accessing forests, water bodies, natural water bodies, and market access was also evident in these communities. What we found was that, so I'm reporting for 2 of the tribal communities. One was a particularly vulnerable tribal group. Those are the Saurya Paharias, and the other one was Munda. And both of the communities were accessing food from cultivated crops in the agricultural land and kitchen gardens. About 60 to 90% of these communities own livestock such as goat, sheep, cattle, poultry, pigs, etc. Both the communities access local forests for collecting wild indigenous foods, and both of them also access local water bodies, which was more evident during the rainy seasons. Around 190 varieties of indigenous foods, apart from the non-indigenous varieties in the two tribal communities, were identified. These included several varieties of green leafy vegetables, roots and tubers, pulses, mushrooms, fruits, and vegetables, and of course, the desi varieties of several cereals. However, we first did a free listing of all the indigenous foods that they were aware of, which they consumed in the past, which are now being little consumed, or which are being habitually consumed. So what we found out of 194, if you see the table, almost or more than 50% of these foods were little used or were historically consumed, and only 45% of them were routinely consumed today. So only 87 of those 194 were actually routinely consumed in the Munda tribal group. So we went ahead and did the taxonomic classification of these foods. And what we found is in both the groups, that is the ones which are habitually consumed, which are on your left, and the ones which are not habitually consumed or were historically consumed, both the groups had foods which were rich in micronutrients. So the take-home message here for us was that we have to find out what happened. Why are certain foods little used? And what about historically consumed food? Are they not available anymore? What was the reason? What are the reasons why these foods are not available anymore? So we did a systematic documentation of 102 of these 194 foods for their nutritive value, both from secondary data as well as our own analysis. And we found, as I told you, many of these foods were rich in iron, calcium, folic acid, vitamin A, but many of them were little used or historically consumed. So this table shows some of the micronutrient content of some of the fruits and vegetables. And if you see some of the dals like Sutri dal, that's they call it, and that is the indigenous variety, was, as expected, was rich in proteins and was rich in calcium also. Certain fruits were very high in vitamin A, as you can, and so were some of the green leafy vegetables. All the figures in red are actually showing the level of these micronutrients, and they are really high. You look at beta carotene levels, you look at iron level, you look at the calcium levels, and this is something worth documenting. But if you see some of the food items like the drumstick, the moringa greens. Now we all know, and different parts of the world have been documenting about moringa. So even this community had consumption of moringa leaves on an habitual basis, and most of the households had a moringa tree at their backyard. Now, however, when we looked at the actual consumption through the dietary recalls, we found poor consumption of indigenous foods, and the overall diet quality was very poor. Only 59% of the indigenous foods were currently consumed, and 40% of the indigenous foods of those were consumed by children. So somewhere we found a gap. That is, the whole household was not perhaps valuing the indigenous food that was available in their vicinity. There was poor nutritional outcome in Saurya Paharia children. You look at their diet diversity score, it was 2, ideal. And if you know about the IYCF practices as recommended by WHO, they say at least 4 food groups should be consumed during the day. Only 6.5%, which is very less, were actually consuming 4 or more food groups. Only 8% were consuming older kids. Only 8% of the older kids were also consuming only 4 or more food groups. There was higher diet diversity score that was there, was however significantly associated with higher intake of most nutrients, which is understood. Diet diversity is a proxy indicator of micronutrients. Only 40% of the children reported indigenous food consumption on the previous day, but those who consumed indigenous food had higher calcium and vitamin A intake. Now, poor feeding practices were also evident. Early initiation of breastfeeding was good, but pre-lacteal feeds were also low as compared to the average or the population average or the average figure for India. Feeding of colostrum was definitely good, but exclusive breastfeeding, if you see it's 25.9%, you might be wondering what's happening with the rest. No, what's happening with the rest is 80% were exclusively breastfed for 6 months and beyond. So they were not introduced complementary feeding at the correct age, which is 6 to 8 months of age. 50% of the children were exclusively breastfed for 7 months till 1 year. So, what was happening is perhaps breastfeeding was not the major issue here. The major issue was introduction of complementary feeding. And this is the time, the 6 months and above period, where we need to include foods rich in iron. And this community had availability of several indigenous foods, but the practice was such that extended breastfeeding was not letting these indigenous foods being consumed by the children who need these the most. Looking at the complementary feeding indicators, as I said, minimum meal frequency was less, diet diversity was poor, animal food consumption. Now, this was a tribal community. Animal food was very much a part of their diet, but children were not consuming it. Fruits and vegetable consumption was reported in 50%, but the amount was very less. However, what we see was the penetration of the processed food market in these communities was very much there. If we asked question about complementary feeding, the mothers would say, yes, we had given the child paroti or a biscuit, that is bread or biscuit. What is happening with the indigenous rice? What is happening with the indigenous pulse? Perhaps the popularity or the marketing strategy of processed food market is not, they are not letting, they're not leaving behind anybody, be it our tribal community also. But I wonder why we cannot use these social marketing strategies to popularize our indigenous food as well, or the food that is being distributed in the Anganwadi centers. Now, there was high prevalence of undernutrition among under 5 children in the Saurya Paharia and the Munda communities. So we found that, but if you compare the two, the Saurya Paharia children were worse off. Okay. Then we looked at the biomarkers of some of the communities, and we found that especially in the Saurya Paharia community, and we found that the CRP markers were high, so inflammatory markers were high. We found high levels of alpha-1 glycoprotein, serum ferritin, and serum TFR and retinol binding proteins. Factors affecting indigenous food consumption. Excuse me. I would like to share the slide again. Just a second. Yeah. Can you see my slide?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, just a second. I think I was updating the slides. So I think the previous version was uploaded. So I'm just uploading the recent slide. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. Update desktop. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So as I said, I just noticed that this slide was not inserted in that presentation. So here is the latest slide. So we found high prevalence of malnutrition among Saurya Paharia women as well, not only children, but we found more than 96% of the women had usual intakes below the estimated average requirements. So I understand that some of our audience here are not from nutrition background. So to make you understand this particular slide, what we look at when we try to compare what the community is eating versus what is available to them. We usually compare it with the ICMR recommendations in terms of the estimated average requirements or the recommended dietary allowances. So we compared the intake of the women with the estimated average requirements for moderately active women. And what we found was more than 96% of the women in the Saurya Paharia community were not consuming enough of proteins in a particular season. So we had seasonal data available with us. The minimum diet diversity score, which is also a proxy indicator of micronutrient intake and other nutritional intake, was just 3, whereas the ideal is just 5. And only 60% of the women reported indigenous food consumption on the previous day. But women who consumed indigenous food had better calcium and vitamin A intake, as we saw in case of children. Now, in the interest of time, I'm just quickly flipping through this slide also, where we found in Munda women also, they were consuming much less than what is recommended for their age group. And however, we found more women were consuming some kind of indigenous food in the previous day in the Munda tribal group. And those who consumed indigenous food, again, see, with the less amount also, their intake of calcium, vitamin A, vitamin C, and riboflavin were higher. And this was after adjusting for several other socioeconomic and demographic factors. We also found undernutrition amongst women and low BMI. And as you can see, 40% of the women were underweight. Comparatively lower prevalence of undernutrition in Munda women, where also we found that 35% of these women were underweight as well. Biomarkers, as I said, this slide is now updated and we have the final results with us. So we found high levels of C-reactive proteins, serum ferritin were suboptimal, but the retinol binding proteins in these women were somewhat better. The vitamin D deficiency was, and that was the same time when we were conducting studies in Delhi amongst the urban population, we found these women had better vitamin D status, and that could be related to their exposure to sunlight, their working in the fields, and other factors. Why are indigenous foods underutilized? These are some of my last slides, and we found after our qualitative discussions, we found that what facilitated indigenous food consumption amongst Munda tribal groups was a desirable taste and a perceived nutritional benefit. So they knew certain foods are so tasty and we would love to go to the forest and even pick it up. And some of them knew about the nutritional benefits, but that was the traditional ecological knowledge. The climate resilient varieties of some of the crops which could just grow with minimal rainfall and other factors, environmental factors. Preservation of indigenous seeds. Some of the communities continued to grow their desi varieties of grains, and that is how they were accessing. They were keeping it, and they said the hybrid varieties can be used only for 1 or 2 seasons, but we preserve our indigenous seeds. And to our surprise, when we looked at the COVID and its impact on food systems in these communities, we really found this factor that they were least affected by the markets, those households which already had indigenous seeds with them. So they had extra manpower because there was back migration, and they were also able to grow their crops on time because they were not affected by the lockdown during the COVID pandemic. So that was a resilience factor which we observed in these communities. And also use of cultural festivals, and the cultural value of these foods was also a facilitatory factor, whereas the barrier was the climate impact on agroforestry system. They said several foods which were consumed previously are not available in the forest now. So could be related to the decadal changes in the climate. Easy access to market foods and food entitlements under the fair price shops, as I've already told you. Millets need to be promoted, but we have to create an environment where farmers are happy to produce millet and sell it to the government, and then they are distributed through fair price shops, and cultivation of hybrid crop varieties, especially paddy. So the conceptual framework that we developed that talked about the determinants of indigenous food consumption, where these facilitatory factors and these barriers, and the linkage between the two was the climate variability and water scarcity. So they were interested to grow certain things in their backyard, but because of water scarcity and all, they were not able to do so. So the possible interventions at different levels for promoting sustainable indigenous food systems could be, and this is a socio-ecological model that we have used, at the individual level, what can we do? At the individual level, we can promote the food plate, promote a diverse food plate for the women and children by promoting nutrition gardens, encouraging indigenous seed productions, access and transplantation of forest species at the backyard, and supporting water management system. At the village level, we can actually incorporate foods into the government food supplementary programs, like the Anganwadi foods can include the indigenous recipes. Then the school meal programs can have indigenous foods incorporated in their menus. At the household level, we can promote agricultural diversity through improved production and access to indigenous food seed varieties. Again, at the village level, we can look for sustainable use of forests and water bodies and teach and train and utilize their own knowledge, co-produce their own knowledge and popularize it through behavior change communication strategies. And at all levels, we can utilize behavior change and communication strategies to promote indigenous diets, healthy eating habits, optimal child feeding practices, balanced diet, and accessing take-home rations and hot-cooked meals from the programs that are available with them. So the key messages of my presentation is that many indigenous foods are nutrient rich. They can contribute to micronutrient intake, and we need to preserve and document our traditional ecological knowledge and promote indigenous food consumption. We need to have favorable socio-cultural factors, and we need to look at the favorable socio-cultural factors and utilize them while we develop our behavior change communication strategies. We need to promote the resilience that is offered by these indigenous foods while they are being cultivated in these regions. The research need of this particular area or niche area is evidence-supported interventions for developing affordable diets in using indigenous food systems while facilitating ecosystem conservation. And the policy interventions could be, as I've already mentioned, incorporating indigenous foods into the supplementary feeding programs, behavior change communication, reduced opportunity cost. Going to the forest itself is a problem for them because they say we are getting grains from the government programs. Why should we do these things? These things were done when we had lean periods, we had no food in the market. So they are talking about opportunity cost here. So we have to make popularize these foods and tell the benefits of this food and the importance of accessing these foods. Livelihood generation programs to reduce migration, and nutrition sensitive agriculture, that is use of agricultural extension centers for research and development in the area of traditional food systems. These are some of the references, and with this, I would like to conclude my presentation and I shall be happy to take up questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an engaging and enlightening talk on various food systems and their components, especially the sustainable food systems and indigenous food systems and the tribal communities, the nutrient analysis of the foods they eat, and other validation using other parameters. So all these are very important and were really very interesting. Now, I'd request Dr. Pamananda Burman and Ms. Shubhda Kapil to take over for the question and answer session.
Dr. Charu, we have a few questions for this very interesting topic. First question is from Dr. Kanika Malik, NIScPR. Question is that in which category is food from genetically modified crops falls, and is risk for Is it Ratsik or Tamsik? Is it healthy? Question is for Professor Vinati.
Yeah. Yeah, hello. Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. In which category the food from genetically modified crops falls? Is it Ratsik or Tamsik? Is it healthy?
No, it is tamasic. It is not at all a Rajasic food or Sattvic food. But as far as the research is going on still, and few countries have not even accepted genetically modified foods. But because we need to have food security, so definitely we have to go in for genetically modified foods. Otherwise, there will not be able to ensure food security. But it is not a sattvic or a rajasic food. It is a tamasic food. Right? Thank you so much for asking such a beautiful question. Thank you. Relevant.
Thank you, ma'am. The second question is for Professor Suparna, again from Dr. Kanika. So the question is that we know that these tribal people, they are consuming these indigenous foods which are nutritionally rich, but why they are malnourished even after having these foods?
Very good question. And that was the same research question we were trying to explore all through our work. And yes, that is what we have to look at, the linkage or what leads to what, or a causal pathway. So we know that these foods are rich. We know that they are nice, beneficial. But at the same time, if the community is not giving enough value to these foods, what we understood is that they said, why should we go to the forest to pick up a food when we are getting these chips and biscuits in the market? It is as tasty. So co-producing this knowledge along with the rationale of why such foods are important is very important. So, you know, we have groups which are working in Latin America, in Canada, with their indigenous population. And this should be a concerted effort between the research community and the community itself. So we need to work together in making these foods or revitalizing these food systems and telling them the importance of diversity, the importance of cost effectiveness of their own food systems. Many a times, and this is anecdotal, I spoke to some of the opinion leaders in the community and they said, well, what we used to eat from the jungle are low value products. What is good is the apple from the market, the oranges from the market. If the opinion leaders are talking like this, then you understand what is happening with the community. So co-production of knowledge is very important here. We as outsider researchers cannot just go do our research and come back. We have to work with the community for the benefit of the community. And that is where, the traditional food systems research work has a unique approach as compared to a conventional research work that we do. Here, the researcher and the researched, there is no fine line between the two. And that is where we go back to the community and use behavior change communication strategies to tell them, see, what knowledge you have given me, it is a treasure trove of knowledge, and they also sometimes value it. But what happens is when there is a paradox between what is available, which is what is consumed, and the understanding. Like I said, exclusive breastfeeding is not a problem there, but prolonged breastfeeding is a problem in that community. And so is malnutrition. So they are not giving the indigenous foods that are available to them to their children. So somebody has to go work with the community and impress upon them the importance of the traditional knowledge. And that is very true. As you have rightly pointed out, they have knowledge, but the knowledge is not getting translated into practice. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Another question is there from Ms. Charu Verma. She want to ask, there is a general perception that we should consume tea within 30 minutes of taking our meals, as it may hamper the nutritional absorption. How far this is true? And yes, if yes, then what is the reason? Question is from Dr. Dawar. Ma'am, you are muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dr. Charu, the thing is that when you take tea, it hampers the digestion of the food which you are consuming, and there's chelation. And because of that chelation, iron is not absorbed whatever iron was there in your food is not absorbed, because you are adding milk to your tea and there is iron in the food and there is chelation. So because of that chemical process, we avoid tea and coffee immediately after taking food, right? I hope that answers the main question to you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question may be answered. You may, both of you may like to answer. The question is that we have discussed the nutrition and the palatability of our food, but our foods are not globally popular like pizza, pasta, burger. So, what is the reason according to you? This question is from Dr. G. Mahesh.
Yeah, the basic, as far as I think, why our foods are not globally popular, because we lack in marketing. You know, the thing is that they produce convenience foods, and people outside India, in Western countries, if you are talking, so they only open the packets, prepare their food quickly, and finish it off. In India, we start right from the scratch. This is one thing, because they don't have manpower which can support them in their kitchens. This is one thing. And the second is that we lack in marketing. If we also start producing food and sending it abroad, first of all, we need to see our own country. When we are not able to produce for our own country, what are we going to send out? And most of our food, our horticultural produce and everything goes waste, because we do not have system to preserve it and to export it. I mean, we lack there. That is really very important, because they have everything mechanical and very advanced technologies which they incorporate, and we lack there. I hope Dr. Suparna can also add to it, because these two things come to my mind, that these are the main reasons. But I told you that if you go to any part of the world, you will find 1, 2, 5, I mean, everywhere, in every city, you will find Indian restaurants. And Indian cuisine is very popular.
Agreed. No, I beg to contradict with the question. Are we really saying that Indian cuisine is not popular? It is quite popular, as Dr. Davar has rightly pointed out. It is quite popular, and the Ministry of Food Processing is also coming up, and we have global standards now available, and we are producing. So I'm not talking about the processing industry here in favor or against, because this session is on traditional food systems and traditional recipes and cuisines. Yes, globally they are quite popular, and marketing things are also happening. We are the largest exporters of some of the food products, especially meat, beef. We are the largest exporters, and there is a lot of question regarding that, because the greenhouse gas emission, so the contribution to GHC and all, is something which is a hot topic of discussion. We are not consumers, but we are producers and sending it abroad. So yes, we are exporters of some of the products, but yes, coming back to cuisines and recipes, they are very popular, and marketing is important. But I feel the traditional knowledge, this particular forum is on improving traditional knowledge and traditional wisdom and giving it back to our community, which should be our focus here in this particular forum. And we need to popularize it, and commercialization and commercial exploitation of the traditional knowledge is something we have to be very careful about. We have seen what has happened with quinoa and others. We want our mandua, we want our ragis to be consumed by our own farmers, families who are producing it, rather than just selling it for money, and we are exporting it and taking money in lieu of nutrition. So yes, we have to be careful about the commercial exploitation of the traditional knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question we have from Dr. Suman Ree. She wants to ask what innovative and holistic model do you suggest for traditional food production and its distribution to reach the masses?
Very important question.
Yeah.
Very important question, Dr. Ray. And yes, the strategies are being thought about. And if you see some of the very important steps taken by the government, like the crop atlas that they are talking about. So they are developing region-specific crop atlases to promote these foods and going back to the historical production. What we know is we are seeing monocrops now. It's rice or wheat. States which have never grown rice are also producing so much of rice, and what is happening is depleting water table, high water footprints and others. So I feel the strategy should be at multiple levels, should be at the food production level through stronger policies. Then at the village level, we can think of cooperatives. We have seen the example of milk and Operation Flood and others. Why can't we have traditional food floods? Why can't we produce enough and make cooperatives to produce it and let the government procure it for its own supplementary feeding programs? So we need to work around the recipes. We need to work around the menus which are being, and we cannot have one size fits all for the whole country. We need to have region specific indigenous menus for all kinds of food programs. The fair price shops should be able to stock a balanced diet. And if you know about the Food Security Act, and when the Food Security Right campaign started, that was the time when the Right to Food campaign had started. That was the time we were talking about a holistic food basket, not only cereal and sugar that is being given out of the fair price shops. So we got the ICDS into it, the midday meal program into it. Now we have to go one step further and make the foods local and regional. That is how we can, and they already have a taste for it. As ma'am has rightly said, the food culture, we have a season and we say, eat good, you do this. So we need to bring back those values. And they are very much a part of the school textbooks also. So interventions at various levels is important to popularize our traditional plate, traditional food culture. And I'm sure we can going to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Davar and Professor Ghosh for the enlightening session. I hope all our audiences must have been benefited from all this in your experiences. Over to Charulata ma'am for the next announcement.
Thank you, Dr. Parmanand, and best wishes to all.
Thank you, Dr. Parmanand and Shubda for moderating.
Professor Jarat, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Truly enlightening lectures.
Yeah. Now I request Dr. Suman to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Charulata. It is a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this memorable occasion of this exciting and informative series of Swastik lecture series. First and foremost, I thank our director, Professor Ranjana Agarwal, for the vision, initiative and encouragement to organize this lecture series. It is under her leadership we are able to make the session a resound success. I owe special gratitude to our eminent speaker, Professor Vinti Davar, a clinician nutritionist who, despite of a busy schedule, found time to grace this occasion with a very sound and informative keynote address on indigenous food system to address food insecurity and malnutrition in tribal communities. We express our gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Professor Suparna Ghosh, from Indian Institute of Public Health for the special address providing deep insights on the traditional food system. I thank our organizing team committee, Dr. Charulata, who is the coordinator, Dr. Burman, who is the co-coordinator, who constantly works so hard to make the day a great success. I thank Dr. G. Mahesh, Ms. Charu Verma, Ms. Shubda Kapil, who are strong backbone of this team. My heartfelt thanks to all the participants for the patience and all the CSR NIScPR family members, without whom the occasion would have been incomplete. Finally, I am thankful to be a part of this team. Yes, indeed, we have learned so much from today's session. Our health, no doubt, is directly proportional to the food we take. At last, I would like to say, let us respect the food. Let us bring back our traditional culture, our traditional food at our home. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Suman. So, ma'am, would you like to say something? Director, ma'am. Or shall we close the session?
I would like to thank both the speakers, Dr. Davar and Dr. Jairath. They took time out of their busy schedule. I came to know about Dr. Ghosh that she had meeting after 12:30 and it's 1:20 and she is still there with us and very patiently took all the questions. Similarly with Dr. Davar, I know she is very busy. She's a young entrepreneur, I should say, at the age of 60. so even then she's spare time. Thank you so very much. Truly enlightening lectures. Thank you. And I hope in coming times we will be meeting in person. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone here.
Thank you.